You said earlier that you said you did legs recently or something?
Leg day, yeah. I
Leg
did
day? You said you were
glutes, yeah.
sore?
Yeah.
Huh. So you did the Ironman, right?
Yeah, I've done 15 of them.
Wow. That's
It's
a
a little
lot. That's
crazy.
a lot, man.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I
Um,
agree.
so I was just curious about that because you've been working out for, you got your experience with this. And you hear that like, you're not supposed to be sore. If you're sore, you're doing something wrong. But like, I feel like I'm sore. I wouldn't say often, but sometimes I am sore if I really get in and go after it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know. I just, sometimes I feel like I'm doing something wrong if I'm sore.
Nah. No, I mean, it's just, prime example. Yesterday I did walking lunges with the barbell, and then I did 45, 55, 65. And I was getting I was getting a good stretch. I was getting a good low. I didn't do the knee to the ground and then try to push up. Like it was just a constant walking. And so I
Hmm,
don't do walking lunges all the time,
I got you.
especially with dumb barbells. So it's like right at the glutes is where it's sore. That's all. But for the most part, I don't get very sore. It just depends on the movement that I'm doing.
Hmm, I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I did legs yesterday too. I don't know, man. Leg day is like, this episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy. I always dread doing leg day. I never want to do leg day, but
Really? Oh,
yeah, man. No, shoulders is my favorite. Shoulders is
is
I
it
love
okay?
shoulders, but,
Yeah.
I think it's the bro split, a muscle every day, a different muscle every day. Is that what it's called? I think it's the bro
I've
split.
never heard of that, but yeah, that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think that's what it's
Yeah.
called. Yeah, I do a different muscle every day, and I don't know. Is always my favorite, but,
Okay.
legs, I don't know, man. It's like, legs is literally the way I do legs. It's like half my body because I do quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves, all in the
Sure.
same workout.
Yep.
Um, and it's just, man, it's just like, I don't know. Sometimes it's rough.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go heavy and you go hard, then yeah, it's going to be that way. But for the most part, it's crucial. You don't want to have chicken legs and have
Nah,
a
yeah,
good upper body.
there's a lot of that going around, dude. You know what's crazy is when I started working out like 5 years ago. I've been working out 5 years now. Um, like the first 2 or 3 months, I didn't do legs at all. I did not do legs at all. And then like I was like, okay, so at something in me clicked, like, man, you gotta start doing legs. And
You
I'm so
got to
glad that I
start
did.
doing. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
You don't
if you're
want
not,
chicken legs, man.
man, it's like, but also too, like, people, I think there's been studies about doing legs, like helps produce testosterone and stuff like that. So,
Uh-huh.
but it's also just balance. Like you don't want to be, all this upper body
No.
strength and then, no legs. Um,
No.
but I do the, I took out, so I work out usually at a Planet Fitness, and I know,
Uh-huh.
everybody's got their thing about
Yeah,
Planet
of
Fitness, whatever.
course.
But like, they have their squat machine is the Smith machine.
Oh,
And so
I
it's like
love the
the
Smith
assistant.
machine. Hmm.
So I stopped using that and I started doing Bulgarian squats instead. And oh my God,
Bulgarian
those,
split squats, man.
man, those things suck, dude.
They're good.
Like, yeah, but they work though. I know
They
that they
work.
work. I know that they work. I did that instead of the squats. I took out the squats, replaced it with that, and then I'm also doing the They have, I don't know. It's like the incline leg press. It's like you're at
Yep.
a 45.
Yep.
So I
Hmm.
do that. It's plate loaded, and then the extensions, and that's for my quads, and other
Yeah.
stuff for hams and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, those Bulgarian split squats, man, they suck.
They're brutal. They're brutal. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like, and then sometimes I get concerned too because I'm like, I think I'm working out a little bit too. Like, I try to finish my workout sometime between 60 and 70 minutes, somewhere in that time
Yeah.
frame is where I try to finish. Sometimes it goes up to an hour 15. If I'm running my mouth or working or whatever on my phone, but
Right.
I try to shoot for that time period because
That's
I don't
good.
want to overdo it.
No. And plus too, being in the gym too long, it's just like you could get burnt out, if you're in there for 2 hours. And, I mean, I mean, I used to coach CrossFit back in the days, and I'd see some people come in and they would, talk with their buddies, and then they would stretch for 30 minutes, and then they would actually work out. And then, 30 minutes later, they would cool down and talk with their buddies again. It's like, geez Louise, like how much? Now, granted, that was like that was like in between my Ironman. So I was all about in and out, getting shit done. And so, but that's also me, doing 6-hour bike rides at the time. So yeah,
dude, that is crazy. I want to get into
crazy.
that.
Yeah.
So first, the way I normally start this thing out is ask you guys to introduce yourself, and I do it that way because if I try to do it, I'm probably going to leave out something important. But also, too, it gives us sort of a direction, I feel like, for the conversation. So
For sure.
if you want to just kind of tell us who you are, what you do, anything that you want to share that you feel is relevant,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So my name is Jen Rulon. I am this is what I've realized with this is that, I always say, oh, I'm a 15-time Ironman triathlete. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a commencement speaker. I'm this and that. And then it's like, I don't really care about the accolades. Like I at 53 years old, I don't really care about the accolades anymore. I feel like for me, it's all about just about who I am as a woman. And now I'm a woman who is living with boundaries, who's living authentically, and who has freedom in her life. And it was because I shouldn't say I cut, but I let go of what I thought was the norm for society. And so for me, I am a girl living in Costa Rica. I strength train 5 days a week. I surf when I can, unless I get nailed in the head by my surfboard and I get 5 stitches like I did about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
Yes. I'm like, oh, mother of pearl, that really hurt. And I'm like, I want to cry. There's no crying in surfing. You're not going to cry, but it hurt. And I realized why it hurt, because all of a sudden I get out, I'm like, there's blood. Okay. But, and I work online. I've been a digital nomad since 2013, before 2020 happened, before it was all cool, right? And for many years, I was a triathlon coach. I was a triathlon coach for many years. And then now I am rebuilding women after perimenopause, menopause, or a divorce. And I've done all 3 of those. So.
Okay, well, that's definitely an introduction.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of things there.
A lot of things.
So let me ask you this first, man, because this is just like on my mind. You said 15 Ironmans.
15. A little crazy.
How does a person, first of all, how does a person do one?
Right.
Let's just get that out of the way. How does a person do one? So what is it? Right. It's just so people know.
Yeah, of course.
It's swimming, biking, and running.
You got it.
And then what's the distances?
Yeah. So for an Ironman, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a marathon run.
Okay. And do you have a time limit on this?
Yes. So you have to finish under 17 hours. So 16:59:59.
That was your time?
Is that? No, hell no. I'm much faster than that, Cody.
What was your time?
Well, I mean, it just, so yes. So, you asked when did this when did this all come about? Like, I was 17 years old and I was watching the ABC Wide World of Sports. You're probably too young for that. Some of your guests may know that, but it was a tagline: the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And it was 1989. I was 17 years old and I was watching the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. And that day, Mark Allen won at 8 hours. And then an hour later, the first female won, Paula Newby-Fraser. And when she crossed that finish line, I was like, I could do that. If she could do it, I could do it. That's exactly how I took it. So, a month later, I saw my grandpa and my mom. And my grandpa was like he was the World War II vet. He was Purple Heart. He was like a much powerful man in my life versus my dad. and very, very supportive. And I said to him, I go, well, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to do the Ironman World Championship. And he goes, well, when you go to Hawaii, I'll go with you. That's all I heard. And the ironic thing about it all, Cody, was I hated running. I was terrible running. I was a terrible runner. I was never on the track team. I was volleyball, a cheerleader, played softball. So I never ran track. I never ran distance or anything, but, or cross country. And so literally by the time I was 30, I did my first Ironman. Now it was Ironman Wisconsin in 2002. 2002. And then when I crossed that finish line in 2002, I realized, oh, I still need to get to Hawaii. So then I chased that dream to get to Hawaii. And it took me 28 years to get to Hawaii, but I managed. Yeah.
Why Hawaii?
Well, Ironman is the world championship. So Ironman World Championship, so Ironman started in 1978 with 13 people, 13 men. So they had, and I don't know if we need to fact check this or not, but they had this competition, like, oh, you're going to swim. And so like the swimmers are like, oh, we're a much better athlete. And the cyclist is like, no, we're much better athlete. We cycle around the island. And the marathoners or the runners are like, well, we're a much better athlete. And so all of them were like, oh yeah, well, let's put this all together. And that's where Ironman came about, was that 2.4 mile swim, that 112 mile bike, and that marathon run, because it was all based off of what was happening in Hawaii at the Big Island. And so there were, I think, 13 men, hence the name Iron Man. And that I think, like I said, I think it was 1978. And then in 1979 or 1980 was when like a woman joined in. But I think there were like 13 or 14 men for that first round. And then it just got big over time. And then triathlons came about, right? So you still have your small triathlons, like a sprint distance, like a 500-meter swim, 10-mile bike, and a 5K run. And then you have an Olympic distance, which is in the Olympics currently, 1.5K swim, 40K bike, and a 10K run. Then you have a half Ironman, and then you have like ultra Ironmans, like triple the distance, which that's insane.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So it all started in Hawaii based off of men's egos,
Right.
wanting to see who was the best.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. So you were 17 when you tried this for the first time, or when you first learned about it? Or
when I first learned about it, because and I actually did a TEDx talk about this, because I had two whys for the Ironman, right? First one was my grandfather, like that's a check mark. But then the second one was based off of my TED talk, was I was always trying to strive to get my dad's attention. You could, and hashtag daddy issues, maybe, I've moved on from that. But because my brother and my dad had this amazing connection through sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey. I grew up in Michigan. So at that, football was very big. And so my dad and my brother had that bond. So I thought in my head, if I can do this event, maybe he'll see me. Maybe I'll be seen, right? And once again, and when I was writing the TEDx talk, I'm like, oh God, is it going to be daddy issues? Like, what, but the cool thing is that, sure, my dad noticed me, but after I crossed the finish line to that first Ironman, I didn't need the validation anymore. I was like, I'm good. Like, I just validated myself. I just swam, bike, and ran. Now I got to get to Hawaii. And why I had to get to Hawaii was because Grandpa was like, I got you. I'm ready. And the ironic thing about all of this is that Grandpa passed away in May of 2001. So he never saw me do the Ironman. He never saw me do my first Ironman, but he saw me.
Oh yeah.
In all my Ironmans. And there's a picture of me I turn right on Alihi Drive to finish the race in Kona. I see my mom, I see her best friend. I look, and so that was my mom's dad that said that to me. And I looked at her and I just like all of a sudden tears just welled up. And I turned on I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, but I turned down that the Alihi Drive and that red carpet, and I slowed down because I didn't want to lose Grandpa. Like I didn't want it to end because
Right.
I didn't want that feeling to be gone. But the great thing is my grandfather's around me everywhere. Like I'm in Costa Rica and I see a blue morpho butterfly flying past me. I see a morpho butterfly on my land that I bought. Like it was like, I'm like, okay, Grandpa's still around to this day, and Grandpa's been gone for many years now, but yeah, I almost didn't want to say goodbye to Grandpa in Kona, but he's around.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. That's a pretty profound story, and I think that's 100% true. I think people they see whether we think they see or not.
Yeah,
they see
yeah,
these things.
they do.
Um, so my mother passed away in 2018,
Okay.
and her name was Brenda, and she the year after that, my landscaping company, we picked up the biggest client we had up to that date. And I remember this was a huge deal for us. I mean, this was going to be like the turning point for me to make this actual full-time thing. And it was one of those things where we had a couple different things initially to do. And I asked the person if I could pick up the first check, in person rather than me mail out. Cause hey, those 4 or 5 days matter,
Sure.
And the accounts payable person, her name was Brenda. The person that handed me that check's name was Brenda. And
Nice.
it's just it's crazy, those little things,
Oh yeah.
they're very powerful.
Very powerful. There's in my little town in Costa Rica, there's a guy that walks. I swear it's my dad.
Hmm.
Every time I walk, just his demeanor and how he walks. I mean, I think he's Nicaraguan or Colombian, but like just his demeanor and his walk, it just freaks me out every time I see him. Every time I see him, because I'm like, that's my dad. So it's like just a nice, friendlier reminder that they're around us.
For sure.
Sometimes we forget to recognize that.
Hmm. It's crazy we're having this conversation right now, man, because I just talked to a guy before you, and we were talking about meaning and the things, like the meaning that you give to things. When
Mm-hmm.
things happen, like what is the meaning that you give to it?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could see a random, butterfly, and you could think it's random, or you could place that meaning to it, that like this is what
Yeah.
this means. And I
Yeah.
think that's very empowering.
Yeah. Well, and I should explain my story because I remember I was getting ready for the World Duathlon Championship in the Netherlands, and my grandfather died. I think it was like early May of 2001. So he passed before 9/11, because if he was around at 9/11, he would have put on his his army stuff and like, I'm going, what do you need me to do,
Yep.
But the race for me wasn't, it was September. Oh, this was crazy. It was September of 2021. And when I was out there training, I was in San Antonio at the time. I was riding my bike and I just started crying. I'm going down this hill and I just started bawling. And I thought to myself, why am I out here? Like, I just lost my grandpa. Like, I don't want to be on my bike. I don't want to be out here. And I just started crying and I just kept pedaling and looking down. And then as I came up on this hill and I crested this hill, all of a sudden these yellow butterflies just started surrounding me. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And all of a sudden I was like, Grandpa? So
Mm.
every time that I've dealt with a heartbreak, a win, asking a question, I see butterflies. I see them, like I saw like the butterflies that I would see out on that race course. It's like, thank you, Grandpa. I needed you right now. Or if I, was going through, through my divorce and I'm going out for a walk and I see this blue morpho butterfly, I'm like, okay, thank you, Grandpa. Needed you. You know, it's something. And so butterflies is a big, very symbolic part of me because of knowing that grandpa's around.
Mm.
Yeah.
And those things aren't accidental, man. Like that's a huge thing, especially when you're in that space and you sort of get that. I guess it would be inspiration. You get that inspiration, like
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is like that person is with you, like they are with
Mm-hmm.
you in that form of that inspiration.
Yep.
You and this might be the answer to this question, but if you could tell yourself something like before you started doing all that training, that 17-year-old person, and then now doing this multiple times, not just once, multiple times, like
Right.
what would you tell yourself in that situation?
Don't. No, I'm joking. No, honestly, it was one of the best. Like, I probably would have told myself, "You're gonna get to Hawaii. Just
Mm,
be patient."
mm,
Because it took me 20. I mean, I said I was gonna go to Kona when I was 17 years old, and I went. Oh my god, I'm gonna do the math terrible. It was 2017, so you know, it was 28 years that it took me to get there. And I qualified at my 12th Ironman.
So
And
you
so
had to
then
be selected for this,
no,
like you,
I placed in my top age group.
oh, okay,
So
okay.
just like Boston Marathon, Boston, you have to have a certain time to get in Boston. But with Hawaii in Kona, like you could sign up for any Ironman. Like Cody, you could sign up to do an Ironman. I know that's the top of your list right now.
I don't know about that, man.
No, but you could sign up for Ironman Florida, Ironman Wisconsin, blah blah blah. But to qualify, you pretty much have to be in the top 2 or 3 of your age group. And so when I qualified at Ironman, I qualified at Ironman Mont Tremblant in Canada, and I was third in my age group. There was 2 slots. The girl in first already got the slot, and so the slot came to me.
Hmm.
And I went to Kona 8 weeks later and raced awful because I wasn't really covered from where I qualified. But at that point, I didn't care. I just wanted to be invited.
I didn't realize this was this involved, man. I think I've talked
Oh
to
yeah,
people who have done Ironmans before. I've never talked to somebody who's done 15, at least not to my knowledge. Is it 15?
15. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have read David Goggins' book, Can't
Oh
Hurt
yeah.
Me, and
Yeah.
I think he did an Ironman,
He did.
but I
Hmm.
I, I don't I think it was one of those things like I don't know if he didn't train properly or something for it or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because he's just one of those guys, that just I mean his whole story is just like forced himself to do these things basically.
Right.
And so that was sort of my view of the Iron Man
Yeah.
is sort of
Yeah.
his journey on it. But yeah, the way you're saying it, like this is a huge thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was a part-time job. I mean, I still had a full-time job, right? And then, I mean, you're knocking out 10 to 15 hours a week of training. You're doing 2-a-days, 6 days a week.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How did you? So I guess when a person does, because like this is one of my biggest concerns with training, and this is like a real concern. I know the brain uses roughly like 20% of the calories and or something along those lines. I think it's like 8% of the body weight. It uses 20% of your calories. And like a big thing for me with my personal diet and recovery is like making sure I have enough brain power basically, because I don't want to be so drained from the gym that that I don't have the cognitive support, because a
Sure.
lot of what I do is like cognitive stuff. So how does a person, I mean, I'm sure you had the right diet and all that stuff, but did you like, how do you sort of, I guess maybe defeat or, battle that mental lag that sort of had to come with that at some point? I mean, there's probably days you were drained
Oh God,
doing that.
yeah. Oh my God. I remember, doing a long run on Friday and then taking a Saturday off and then doing a long bike. And then Monday going into the Monday and being like, you're kidding me. I have to do a 30-minute run. Like this makes no sense, And
Right.
then in reality, it's like you just sort of get up and go and you just do it. Like something I talk to my clients about, we need to start developing habits. Habits become non-negotiables. And like when people talk to me about fitness, they're like, oh, it's so easy for you. I'm like, no, it's not always easy for me, but I've developed a habit that I don't even think about it. I don't even second guess it. Like today was just an easy walk for me. And so I put on the big floppy hat, sunscreen, got some vitamin D, and just had a nice relaxing walk and listened to a book, but but yesterday was a hard leg day, so it's just, you definitely have to have that balance, because you can't go hard and you can't have a perfect day every day when it comes to going to the gym, your run, your swim, your bike, whatever you're doing, Zumba,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. I guess a better way to phrase the question I was trying to ask was avoiding burnout, which I think you hit that you answered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
that makes sense though.
I was burned. I did 4 Ironmans in, was it 3 years? And then it just was like, I just sort of was like, I'm done. And then I
I bet.
and then I had a couple miscarriages, lost my dad.
Mm.
And so for me to even think of sitting on the bike for 6 hours with my thoughts did not make sense to me. So I took a 8-year sabbatical in between my 4 Ironmans and then my 11 Ironmans. But what triggered me was when my ex-husband qualified for Hawaii, and we went to Hawaii, and I'm sitting on the pier and I'm like, oh yeah, that's my dream. And so I was like, game on. And so I ended up doing 2 Ironmans a year, and qualified in 2017.
And you maintain that 10, 15 hours a week training for that?
Yeah. But like post Ironman, like I would take a good month off. Like I would I wouldn't run for a couple weeks. I would maybe go swim, because that was always a good recovery. I did not want to see my bike one time. Like many times, I'm just like, ugh,
Yeah.
but I had to keep a balance. And even and this was something that I did for many years. Like if my friends were like, we're going to Vegas for my 40th, I'm like, all right, I'm in. But knowing that I would have to get up early to go for my long run in Vegas before they even got up, And so and then I would maybe have to go to bed, or I had to be mindful of the food I was eating, right? I wasn't back. I quit drinking over 5 years ago, but I still was drinking when I was in the Ironman space. My last Ironman is when I did not have any alcohol for over 6 weeks, and I had the best race of my career. So
you mentioned swimming with recovery, and I'm a big believer in that active recovery, man. Like I just, thankfully I've never had any crazy major injuries. I have had some slight overuse of like joints and stuff like that, which I don't know. I take joints very seriously. Like I just, if you want to lift heavy, that's fine, whatever. But like I'm not that guy that's going to be in there straining my joints like that. I do the red light bed, the collagen, the cold plunging, all that stuff. I'm serious about joints. But I'm also serious about, a sore muscle is a little bit different from a sore joint. But I do believe in like physical light physical active recovery, like the blood flow of moving your body and stuff.
For sure.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
The few overuse injuries I have had, I've still maintained, whether it was a very light elliptical or very light walk or something. And it's never been something where I couldn't walk. It was just, an irritation basically. But yeah, that stuff's powerful.
Yeah. And for me, I've had injuries going through my training, right? I rolled my ankle because I went for a trail run instead of doing a road run. I just needed something different, but the ankle opted not to. And I still was able to swim. I was still able to bike. I just had a bike inside. I was able to do upper body. Like I was still able to move. I just couldn't run, and then eventually I got on the, what is it? The G treadmill, something like that. Like it's like you're running on, you're running in space, like the astronauts, like a G treadmill.
Okay.
You put your,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you don't put your whole body, you put your whole body into this contraption on a treadmill, and it's not it's like your weight, it's like 50% of your weight and you're able to run. So if you're
Oh wow,
like,
okay.
yeah, it's really cool. Like it really, and it could be a little uncomfortable, but like if you need to get running again, but yeah, I'm retired now. Like I don't do that crazy ass stuff anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really big on treadmills.
Yeah.
I just
I call them dread mills.
yeah. Yeah, first for one thing, like especially running recently for me, it's not a knee injury. There's a band that goes on the outside of your quad. I think it's an
Iliotibial
IT.
band.
Yeah, something. It goes from your hip to your knee,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
And I haven't had a massage in a while, and I used to get them routinely, but this thing is so tight, man. And the last time I tried to run, it was like the outside of my knee I was having issues with. And I know it's because of that. I know my leg is too tight. I know that's what the issue is. It's not my knee. It's not
How
my
old are you?
form. I'm
How old are your
31.
shoes? No, how old are your shoes?
They were fairly. I have Brooks. I run in Brooks,
Okay.
and they were fairly new at the time.
Okay.
The problem with Brooks is I think any running shoe is really made for improper form. So if you run with proper form, it's like the shoe is like backwards. So you have to almost purposely run with improper form. But like the reason there's they have the cushion on it is because a lot of people have that impact with the heel.
Yeah.
And my understanding is you're supposed to make the impact with the center of with the ball of your foot,
Yep. Like
and so it's kind of hard to do that with a shoe that's literally made for the impact of the heel. But anyway, Brooks are really good shoes. I'm not saying anything about Brooks. But yeah, it was the outside of my knee, and it's like I don't like the treadmill, but I like running outside. I like being outside running. And I learned, I don't know if you know who Andrew Huberman is or not.
Of course.
Yeah. I love his podcast. I learned from his podcast that the reason that if you're running, you have the endorphins and stuff from working out. But if you're running outside and you have things passing your eyes, whether it's trees or cars or whatever, that forward motion calms the amygdala in your brain, which is the stress center. So that's why you get that calming effect. I mean, the same thing can be done if you're walking.
That's
but
cool.
If you're on a treadmill and you're just kind of sitting there, you're stationary. And like, if I had a treadmill sitting right here in front of this desk, all these things will be stationary, but I would be walking forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just an interesting little,
interesting.
I'll have to send you that episode.
That's
he was,
cool.
It was a recent one. But he was talking about that forward motion sort of, calms you.
Yeah.
Which is why an outside run is really,
I love them.
It's really calming.
Yeah. I mean,
but it freaking stressed me out because of my knee.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be curious about your form. I would be curious about like if you're overstriding, that type of thing. But that's coach being a coach, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like sometimes the reason I think it's the band and not the actual knee itself is because sometimes I sit a lot with I'll cross my, one leg over the other. And if I do it like this, sometimes on the outside of my knee right here, I'll feel it, which makes me feel like there's tension. It's a tension thing. Because at that point, I'm almost like I'm stretching my leg basically.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like just sitting like this should not have pain on the outside of your knee. You see what I'm saying?
Agreed.
So it's got to be because it's too tight.
Yeah.
And I try to do stretches and stuff in the gym. I usually stretch after leg. I usually stretch 2 or maybe 3 times a week.
Have you foam rolled?
But the gym I go to doesn't have one, but I need to do that.
Yeah, foam rolling would be great for the IT band.
Like I said, I do the cold plunge religiously, but I don't think it's not really. I don't know if it helps with joints too much. I mean, it does the inflammation of the muscles and stuff because of the blood flow. But it's hard, man. It's hard to get those joints. I use the red light bed.
Yep.
But the red light bed that I use is it's not like you go into a sauna, it's like that really intense, deep red light. It's not like that. It's almost like a tanning bed with a red light tint that doesn't tan your skin. It's a weird looking. I think it's supposed to be for your skin, but I don't know. I believe that when I do it, it helps my joints, so it'll probably help my joints.
Hey, why not? Take advantage of it. Yeah.
I mean, those red light beds are expensive, man. If I could afford one, I would definitely have one, like the at-home use. But those things they're up there for what they are, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I am religious about that cold plunge. Like I do the cold plunge 4 or 5 times a week.
Do you
and
really?
It's low 40s. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That thing's brutal.
I've done cold plunges before, and honestly, like I've done cryotherapy many times, in my Ironman days. I honestly hate it. I hate being cold. I
Yeah.
hate it. And I know it's the ego talking, you know, I know it's like that when I jump in, like I remember the one time I did it, I jumped in and it was like I was 10 seconds in and I was like in that and panic, you know, and my friends were around me like holding my hand. They're like, Jen, you got this, you got this. And then all of a sudden I just calmed down and I'm like, you're a 15-time Ironman triathlete. What the hell are you freaking out about? And so when they were like, all right, you're at 90 seconds. And I'm like, excellent. And I just took my breath. I was like, I just submerged underwater and just sat underwater. And they were like, wait a minute, this was the chick that was freaking out for 10 seconds. I was like, I know it was the ego because like I said, I have a hard time with cold. I really do. I do not like being cold. Hence why I live in Costa Rica.
Yeah, but dude, another thing about that though is like when you really have that much of an aversion of this thing and you do it anyways, that's how you build that trust with yourself. Like you know that you can trust yourself. Another lesson from Andrew Huberman, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is a part of the brain that has been basically neuroscientists have deemed the discipline muscle. This part gets bigger when you do things that you don't want to do. And they've seen connections with people who live longer, who are generally healthier in older age. They have this part of their brain is bigger. And you do this part gets bigger or exercised by doing things that you don't want to do. And dude, that cold plunge, that thing never gets easier. Like sometimes I'm concerned, like, oh man, if I do this consistently for 5 days a week, I'm going to get used to it and it won't affect my body. That you never get used to that, man.
No.
Like that, every time you get in there, that thing sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm in South Carolina, and this is really this is uncommon for us. But a couple weeks ago, we had snow. We had like an inch or two of snow.
Oh my God. Like y'all got slammed. The South got slammed.
Yeah. The whole South, Florida had snow in this
North
in this
Carolina
storm.
Or not New Orleans, like Louisiana. I had a girlfriend there.
Yeah. We don't know how to act when there's an inch of snow on the ground around here. We just we don't know, you know.
No.
But there was snow on the ground. I was in the cold plunge. The water was 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And I usually do like 43 or 44. Ooh. 39, I think it was like 19 outside. And I was like, oh my God, dude, that thing sucked.
Yeah. I can
But it was like, it was crazy because it was warmer inside the water than it was outside the water.
For sure.
But I was like, man, what am I doing right now? But I did it. I did my full 3 minutes.
Good for you. Yeah. Yeah. The chiropractor that I used to go to in San Antonio, they had a cryo machine and I did that. And honestly, like, I was like, okay, they're like 3 minutes. I'm like, yeah, let's do 3 minutes. And then like in 15 seconds, I'm like, how much time do I have? You know, they're like, I go, how about we go 90 seconds, you know? But honestly, I realized how well, like after my long runs, I would always go and get adjusted and then go do that, knowing that that would help me going into my rest day on Saturday.
So one thing that I haven't done, and I don't know why I haven't done this, but I've wanted to, is go to a chiropractor. I've never done it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I watched the videos where they get their neck cracked or whatever. I'm like, dude, this doesn't look safe.
After the neck cracking, I love it. Now, you know, I've had my share of chiropractors, you know, and I had one chiropractor just wreak havoc on my body. And it was 2 weeks out from an Ironman and I was laid on my back for almost a week because he jacked it up so bad. I don't know how I got through that Ironman, but I did. But my Ironman or my chiropractors that I worked with in San Antonio, I told them that story. And so they know that I was very protective on this one position that they would always try to crack. And then so I worked with, it was called, they're still there, Stratton Sport and Spine in San Antonio. So I worked with Dr. Johnny for many years and he would go in there and I would freeze up. I'd freeze up and I don't know what it was. And then Brock, the owner, would come in and Brock would be like, all right, do this. And I would just sort of like fall. And all of a sudden he'd be like, crack. And Johnny's like, hey, wait a minute. But, you know, but after time, Johnny figured out like what he needed to say to me to adjust. Right. And now I'm getting to a point, like I have a physio here and I have to do the same thing. I have to tell the same story about like, okay, relax, breathe, trust the process. He's going to take care of you. And so they do. But I was like, after the one chiropractor, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever go back, but honestly, like they've done a lot for me over the years. So, in a good way, but, and also a lesson learned way too. Right.
I want to try it out, man. I don't know. Like, I think there's one way they can decompress your spine. Like there's a seat or something they put you in and it's, I don't know, some kind of way it decompresses your spine. I'm curious to see what that's like. Cause like I'll do the dead hangs in the gym and I can literally feel like sometimes my back will pop or whatever, I don't know. I sit, well, I wouldn't say I sit a lot, but I'm definitely moving a lot. And if I have any issues joint wise or pain wise, it's usually lower back or knees, which in this case is this knee situation. But I don't know. I'm also a big person on massages too, man. I used to get massages all the time. And, it's just, I don't know. Massages are like such a spectrum. The first massage I ever had, I mean, it was not, I'll tell you, I don't even know if I would count this. It was one of those, like, you go to a mall or whatever, and there's the people in the center of the mall.
Yeah. Yes.
There's the people in the center of the mall. And like, that was my first massage. And I was like, dude, this is like terrible. Why would somebody do this for an hour?
$5 for 5 minutes.
It's like, yeah. And then I found a person, like she had a whole process she went through for an hour and it was fantastic. I lost consciousness pretty much every time. It was just great. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think recovery is like really, I think it's overlooked. I mean, I've heard before that like 100%. What you do in the gym and then your diet and then recovery, they're all 3 equal parts. And that's kind of, since I've heard that, that's kind of been the philosophy I've taken as far as like what's more important. You know what? I wish somebody would have told me how important sleep was before I started working out.
Sleep is crucial.
Man, it's like it's literally your body's superpower, I feel like. And not just, I don't mean just sleeping for 8 hours or whatever it is. No. Like it's like optimizing your sleep.
Quality sleep.
Yeah. It's
I have a Aura ring. I don't know if
I've seen them.
OURA. They're fantastic. It's crazy what it will pick up and what it will find. It's like, like this morning was like, hey, nice job. You slept well. You had good, and I go and I look, I'm like, my REM was good. My latency was good. Like everything was good. They're like, all right, you ready to tackle your day or whatever? And it was cool because I only had a walk, but the day before, so Wednesday, I had leg day and my ring was like, hey, you're not recovered, but if you have to go easy, go easy. But I was still able to push through it. And I think that's what I love about the mind of a triathlete and the mind of an Ironman triathlete. You figure out what you can and can't push through. So.
Yeah. Well, you don't know though until you push your body to that space.
Exactly.
Like that's the whole thing. I mean, you can sit there and debate it all day, but until you put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
We're talking about, just to back up, we're talking about sleep, optimizing sleep. I'm really big, and this is probably not a good reason to optimize sleep. I mean, sleep is very important for like restoration and stuff. But for me, it's dreaming. I'm a very I'm big on dreams, like tracking dreams, dream journaling and stuff.
Yeah.
And you get that from REM sleep. I think the first part of sleep is like physical repair, and then the later part is mental repair, I think, is when you have more of your mental. But yeah, REM sleep, man, the dreams, people think that it doesn't really mean anything, but I'm telling you, your dreams are powerful.
Powerful. So powerful.
Yeah. It's, and I don't mean to get all, Carl Jung or anything, but it's just like, or whoever it was, Freud, whoever the dream guy was, psychologist.
I think it was Freud, right?
Yeah, so. Maybe. But yeah, it's just powerful, man. Like I have a dream. I think it's a dictionary on my phone.
Dream book. Oh, I go online and I'll be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Well, it's just like, I mean, I think that's part of like our internal voice, our internal, I mean, I think it's a very arrogant is a little bit too harsh of a word. I think it's a very grandiose thing to say that maybe God can speak to you through dreams, but it definitely comes from a higher place, man. It's not like random 100%. At all,
It's I don't know. It's a subconscious. Yeah. It's the
Yeah. That's,
subconscious. I think it is that, there's things that maybe you haven't addressed, or maybe you're having a fight with your partner or a family member, and something happens in the dream, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, like I need to put my ego aside to contact that person, because like that didn't make sense. Like I don't want to wake up like that. I don't want to wake up with not having, like, be able to talk to that person again or whatever. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example, but I think there's a lot to be said about dreams, for sure. A lot of people don't tap into it though, because they're afraid of what they want to find out.
well, and I think, and I was just talking about this too. I think we all have a problem trusting ourselves, our intuition, our inner voice. And I think dreams are one of those ways that we don't trust what we say to ourselves.
Correct.
I mean, assuming that a dream even is something that comes from you, I don't know. That's debatable where it comes from. Who knows? But I don't know. Just like, I think this inner voice, we all have an issue, I think, trusting that and following that. And it's crazy. I was talking to somebody about this too a couple weeks ago. It's crazy that we have that, maybe that fear to follow that voice, because it literally comes from inside of you. It'd be different if I were telling you, hey, you should do this thing, and then you're like, oh, I'm not going to trust that. But if it comes from inside of you, if something comes from in you, it's just like, what more powerful thing is there?
Yeah.
But I think, to go back to what you were just talking about putting yourself in that situation and proving yourself to yourself, I don't think we can follow that voice until we can prove ourselves to ourselves, because otherwise it's just like, if we don't have that self-confidence and we think about these things over the time period of our life, it's like, well, every time I was in this situation, I kept a promise to myself, I broke it, whatever. Now I have this thing that says, hey, do this. I can't trust that, because I can't trust myself, because every time I've been in this situation, I didn't keep the promise to myself. Versus if you do the opposite direction, I think it'd be much more, it'd be a lot easier to, like, follow that voice, that inner voice. And I think that's just one of the many.
I'm like, but to me, like what you just said was so overthinking shit. Like you were just like, like, it's like you were like overthinking. But if you just let it flow and you allow yourself to not think and listen to those signs, those butterflies, listen to those dreams, like that's the state I'm in right now. I call it, like we call it the flow state. You have to, like, just allow things to happen. Like for me, when people ask me 20 million questions about the house that I'm building, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? Right now I got to get the windows in. That's my thing that I'm worrying about. Next up will be the sinks. Next will be the toilets. And if I sit there and overthink and overprocess, then I'm not going to enjoy the process of building my house.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people that don't tap into their intuition and to their flow state because they want to control shit, right? They want to control things. Where in reality, like if you just sort of sit back, and I'm not saying I'm a goal setter, I'm a motivator, like that's just who I am. But right now, I'm done chasing finish lines because I felt like I had to prove myself with chasing finish lines, right? Now, I'm just living the life that I want to live because I don't have to prove shit to anybody.
Well, that's an empowering way to put it. I'm thinking about this now, man, because I've been known to overthink some things and go off on some tangents. But I don't know. I feel like if I have these thoughts or these, I want to do this goal for myself, like, how will I feel if I don't pursue that? Like,
but I'm not saying not to pursue it. You're going to pursue it. Like you're going to live your life anyways, right? You're going to live. So if it takes you 28 years to pursue a dream or to get to a goal or get to Hawaii, great. You're going to live your life anyways. But if you sit there and overthink the process and how it's supposed to happen and this and that,
yeah, for sure.
Then it gets to a point where it's not enjoyable anymore. Like, I mean, like I bought land in Costa Rica. I'm building a house in Costa Rica. You know, I have like friends and family members like, well, what's going to happen when you die? Well, considering I'm hoping that's another 40 years, I don't know. But I don't want to, why would I think about that? I don't need to think about that. You know, like, well, what's going to happen when this? I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm building my dream house in Costa Rica,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think the what is the important part. The how is sort of irrelevant. You know, the how will
Right.
come to you. Like, how are you going to do
Right.
this? That'll come to you. But you just
Right.
have to know what it is that you
Yeah.
want, you know,
Yeah.
like uh and it's crazy because I think a lot of times we do get caught up in that. Even before we take the first step, we're like, well, how can I make this work?
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't know the answer to that, but what you can be certain is, you know, take step number one.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably in the
Yeah.
process somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think sometimes, man, that analysis paralysis is just dangerous. It would just overthink
Very
a thing
dangerous.
to the point to where we, you know, I mean, what if you never, you know, for 28 years, you just like asked yourself, well, how am I going to do this? And then you just never did it, you know, or however
That's
long
not
it took
who,
to get to,
yeah, but that's not who I am.
yeah.
You know,
Cause
I'm gonna,
you just,
and oh, don't get me wrong. I'm a woman, first of all. I'm a Scorpio, of course. And then I overthink. So of course I'm overthinking. But as I've gotten older
yeah.
and realized that, sure, how I was as that 19 or that 17-year-old girl that had that dream and those goals and those ideas, that got me to where I am today. But now I've also realized that I've let go of the control. I'm letting the universe take over. Everything is happening for me. I'm just catching up to it.
Mm.
And that's something, I don't know if you want to go really deep about that, but um, Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks is phenomenal. Like that's her thought process and her mindset. Like everything is set and ready for you. You just have to catch up to it. You just have to trust that things are happening for you.
I mean, when you think about it, man, that's kind of like I don't know about your personal life and your personal journey, but if I think about over my life, it almost seems that way. Like you know, you're trying to do this thing. You don't know how you're going to do it. You're just trying to take the next step because that's a lot of times that's all you can see is just the next step. And then what do you know? You meet this person that directs you to the direction you're supposed to go, or this thing happens that pushes you in this direction. And it's just like, man, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard that. But I haven't thought about it to this level before.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mean, I look back at my story of, you know, Mark Allen and winning the Ironman when I was watching it in 1989. Well, I connected with a friend of mine, or I connected with a couple at a race in Texas, and we're sitting there talking, and he's like, yeah, you know, I think I have some ideas for you. You know, as a coach, would you like to come on board and let's talk? I was like, yeah, let's talk. So then I don't know, like I think it was 2016. 2016, I think it was, I don't remember. But long story short, I'm sitting there having lunch with Mark Allen, the guy that I saw in 1989 win the Ironman. That motivated me. And now, like, when I qualified for Kona, I got a message from him saying, hey, congratulations, I saw that you qualified. I'm like, like that was like oh my god, that was a complete circle, right? I mean, how beautiful was that? Yeah.
So when you were like doing these things and you got to these, you know, everything was a next level thing. Did you ever feel imposter syndrome? Like you know, the thing was because what you're saying is like these things are made for you. And I think a lot of people feel that these things are not, or not that they're not made for them, but they're not the person that can achieve that yet. You know, like a lot of people feel imposter syndrome. Like, you know, if you want to be the champion, but you don't feel that you can because for some reason you don't see yourself there or whatever. Did you ever feel any of that?
never felt that as an athlete, because I earned my way to get in there. I was clean. I didn't take any pellets or anything. Like everything I
Okay.
did was clean, right? So yeah, I mean, it took me 12 Ironmans to qualify to get to that. So I never felt as an imposter syndrome with that. When it came to my business, yes,
Hmm.
for sure. Like when I first started my business as a triathlon coach, I started in 2013, even though I was coaching many clients since 2001. So I've been doing this for over 20 some years now. And I definitely had the imposter syndrome when it came to my speaking events, when it came to my coaching even, like, okay, I know how to do what I'm doing, but I have to have a coach. So how can
Hmm.
I do this and teach others, even though I have the master's degree in kinesiology and exercise science. I learned a lot from my coaches, right? I took courses, I did certifications. So I think definitely the imposter syndrome came more for running a business more than
Right.
anything than being an athlete. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Because yeah, I mean it's a hell of a thing to get like in that space as an athlete. So you already kind of prove yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um, the reason I was asking that because I just feel like especially with the business stuff that definitely makes sense because I feel like if it's I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just going to say that I feel like if the goal is I feel like if you don't have imposter syndrome, your goals might not be big enough. That's personally
True.
how I feel.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, that leads us into the comfort zone thing. And if you're not, you can't grow inside your comfort zone. I mean, all these things
Right.
they're not just catchy phrases, man. They're like,
Yeah.
like this is what it takes,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, and now like how I'm working with women, I'm working, I rebuild women after perimenopause, menopause, or divorce, or during that time, right? And how do I help them? I help them through fitness, strength training. I help them through nutrition. I help them with their micronutrients, right? But I also help them with everyday life. Like
Hmm.
there's so many conversations that these women have in their head that they're not worth it. They're not ready to take this challenge on. They're not ready. They've always been the caregiver, so they need to take care of everybody else, but not take care of themselves. Now, my goal is to really tap into the emotional, the mental. The physical part is easy, but
Hmm.
now we got to tap into that. And that's sometimes where I get the imposter syndrome because I have my own shit, right? I mean,
Right.
I went through a divorce and, I don't want to be giving dating advice and things like that, but, when women ask me certain questions, I'll be like, well, based on my experience, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
but sometimes that's where I do have the imposter syndrome because it's like, am I giving the right advice? I'm not a therapist, nor do I play one on television, but I think it's based off of my experience and what I've learned and read and educated myself on.
Well, I mean, your experience is the most powerful thing that you can have. I mean, it's
True.
you can't learn these things from a textbook. It's like
No.
I think about like over my life, man, the past decade of my life, this whole entrepreneurship journey and all this stuff, man. It's like those are some valuable lessons in there, and it might not
Hmm.
be relevant to everybody's situation, but the people that it is relevant to, it might really help them. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like it's certainly like I think about me being in that space. Like, it's just like if I had somebody I could talk to just to relate to, like, just a fellow business person to be like, hey, what you're experiencing right now is normal for most business owners and you're
Yeah.
going to experience this. And,
Yeah.
so, I mean, those things matter, those things are
For
important.
sure. For sure. And I think too, like, having a coach is important. I have a coach, I have a business coach, and he's also like my fitness nutrition as well. Like he's a life coach and
Hmm.
he has helped me drastically like convert and change from coaching triathletes and runners only to now working with women. I still have a handful of runners and triathletes that I work with. I mean, it's great because it's my jam, it's what I'm good at. But like
Hmm.
this is something different now, and he's really helped me grow as a business owner and as a person. So yeah, it's great. I should connect you with him.
Yeah,
He
probably.
needs to be on your podcast. He's phenomenal. He's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So, man, we've covered so many spaces.
Yeah, right.
Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to get into?
Other than the big ass iguana above my roof, like he's in between the roof. Like I'm like, what is he doing? Like he's walking around. He sounds huge, but I don't think he is. What do we want to talk about?
I
You
just
know,
wanted to make sure we covered everything.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, whoever your followers are, whether a man or a woman, like, I think like sort of what we were talking about before we started recording is ask questions. Like, find out why, find out how, like, question things. Because I think we are now in our society that we are questioning things and we are wondering why this is happening or why that is happening. I think if, I encourage my clients to ask me, well, why am I doing this instead of this for my body? Or why do you put me on this many macros? Why more protein than carbohydrates? Well, you're a 52-year-old woman. I got to jack up that protein because I got to replace we got to repair those muscles way quicker. We got to put on muscle mass, like that type of thing, because like just little things like that. So I think to your followers is to start asking questions and ask hard questions. People are not going to like what you ask, but that's not on you, that's on them.
Yeah. I think, man, that's such a good point. I think curiosity is probably one of the things that's going to perpetuate our species, like the survival of our species, because you think about like a lot of the things I saw a timeline of like the last 200 years from like 1800s to now,
Okay.
and the things that have changed, like technology, lifestyles, like we have had significant change in the past 200 years versus the however many years humans have been here before that. But you have to think, man, like if we didn't have that curiosity to say, okay, can we, and I don't know when the first plane was put up in the air, but like, can we make this plane fly? Can we make a car? Can we make like all these things that we're trying to do? Phones now with AI, like it's just this curiosity. And I think that's where, I just think that's how we get to whatever that next thing is, as far as like where we go as a species,
Yeah.
and hopefully that's progressive improvement.
Right. It was actually Kitty Hawk, December 17th. I don't remember the year though.
Of
First airplane in the air.
Oh, it wasn't the Wright brothers?
Yeah, that's it. Kitty Hawk.
Oh, okay.
December 17th. But the reason why I know that, it's my mom's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I would win in a trivia game.
I didn't realize that, but I remember it now because my mom's is the 16th, December 16th.
Oh my, there you go. Yeah. Sagittarius. That's great.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That is. So are you on social media? Do you have a website or anything?
I am all of the above. So you could go to jenrulon.com, JENRULON.com. You could go on Instagram, Coach Jen Rulon. You could go on TikTok. If you have it, if you've downloaded it before the debacle, you could go to Coach Jen Rulon as well. And I'm very active on Instagram stories. I'm very active on TikTok. And then I'm on Facebook, but so there you go.
Facebook's an interesting one. But if you send me all that stuff, I'll put it in the descriptions and all that.
Of course.
So you may have already shared this, but just in case you haven't, one thing I ask everybody before we close, if you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it could be from your personal life, if you're comfortable sharing it, or your Ironman journey, your career. What do you think would be one of the most important lessons you've ever learned?
My first initial thought would be don't settle. And don't give up on that dream.
I like it.
Because I'll explain, because I did my first Ironman and then I did my second Ironman, and I was My second Ironman, I was 84 seconds off of qualifying for the Ironman World Championship. And I could have been like, oh, I was almost there, whatever. I did 2 more Ironmans. I took that 8-year sabbatical and then did 11 more Ironmans. So I didn't settle for mediocrity. I settled for greatness because I wanted to get to Kona. And if I would have gave up on that dream, I was going to live my life anyways. Like, I think that's Earl Nightingale or Nightingale. He talks about that quote, like, don't give up on your dreams. You're going to live anyways.
That's actually, God, I've never heard that before, but that's, first of all, that's an incredible lesson. Second of all, that quote just really inspired me because it's like, I'm almost like more afraid of living and not achieving that thing and then having to live with that versus like trying and failing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I regret absolutely terrible. I don't want to be that guy that looks back over my life and says, man, what if I did this? Or what if I at least tried?
Oh, here, I looked it up. Don't let the fear of the time it will take to accomplish something stand in the way of your doing it. The time will pass anyways. We might just as well put that passing time to the best possible use.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, you're not going to stop time. What else are you going to do?
You're going to live. And if I would have, like, after the second Ironman, even after the second Ironman, and I did qualify and went to Kona, I probably would have been like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. Why do I, but talk about a hero story, man. Talk about the story that, it took me 28 years to get to that race. That's beautiful.
Well, it is beautiful, and congratulations on
Crazy
that.
too.
I just think about, I can't imagine, first of all, I can't imagine doing that once and then 15 times. Like, that's crazy. I know a guy, I went to high school with a guy. I think he's done one. He's like Army Rangers and all that stuff. But I don't know, man. I feel like I would want to do that, but then I also feel like I don't have the time to train for that. And that's probably just an excuse.
A lot of time.
But man, you
know what? But you don't have to do it. If that's not what you want to do, then, some of my best clients are the entrepreneurs, the doctors, the busy ass moms, the lawyers. Those are some of my top clients because they need an out. They need somebody to provide them a routine and because they're so busy with family, with their work and all that stuff. They are some of my best clients because they organize everything into their calendar and they get it done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're driven.
They're very driven.
People. Yep. Well, listen, we've covered a lot of spaces here.
We did.
I hope I didn't go off the rails too much. I've been known to go off on a few tangents.
Nah, we're good. We're good. That was great, Cody.
Hey everybody, listen, I really appreciate you guys tuning in today, man. If you like the content, if you found this episode useful, you can visit us on social media. That's YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Amazon Music, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, and Google and Apple Podcasts. There you can like our videos, follow, subscribe, and share. And again, we appreciate it. We'll see you next time.